Picture this. You send one, maybe two, "Are you okay?" text messages, and suddenly they vanish for hours. Radio silence. You suggest a weekend getaway, and they immediately remember that they had a work meeting that they can't get out of. The tighter you hold on, the more they seem to distance themselves. If love is supposed to be a dance, why does every step forward of closeness make your partner run for the exit instead of your hand? Why does it seem that the more you reach, the faster they pull away? Let's look at this cycle, the anxious avoidant trap. We're going to walk through it so you can finally stop sprinting after your romantic partner who frankly seems to always want to run. Us therapists have a fancy word for it, the pursuer distancer dynamic. But for most of us, it simply feels like I just want to talk things through and they just want to breathe, preferably in another zip code. It's a classic relationship dynamic where one partner seems wired with an internal motion detector alarm, consistently scanning for a millimeter of emotional closeness, while the other partner treats any hint of closeness like a smoke filled room, a clear and present danger to be escaped at all cost. The moment the pursuer, often operating from an anxious attachment style, senses that millimeter of space, that internal alarm does not just buzz, it screams abandonment, and at a 5 alarm intensity. Meanwhile, the distancer, typically someone who has an avoidant attachment style, hears that same alarm and thinks, "Fire, I must get out of here now." And then cue the relentless loop. One partner steps forward, the other instinctively steps back, then one partner takes 2 steps forward, and the other partner takes 10 steps back. And this continues on until both are utterly dizzy, exhausted, and neither have a clue who even started this frantic, disorienting cycle. It's a dance not meant to be out of malice, but out of a deep ingrained, often unconscious survival strategy. To truly grasp this dynamic, we have to rewind a little bit, all the way back to attachment science. By looking at your attachment style, it shows us that our earliest interactions with caregivers, usually our parents, literally help program our nervous system. Think of it as your first emotional operating system. If the affection from your parents was inconsistent, unpredictable, or had to be earned through intense effort, you've likely learned to grip tightly when affection did show up, fearing it would just disappear. This often lays the groundwork for an anxious attachment style, where you become acutely sensitive to perceived slights or withdrawals and needing frequent reassurance in order to feel secure. On the other hand, if affection in your childhood became bundled with intrusion, criticism, or felt overwhelming, you probably learned to cultivate fierce self sufficiency. This often leads to an avoidant attachment style where independence is paramount and deep intimacy can feel like a threat to your free will. So, fast forward to adulthood, and your attachment software starts running on outdated codes. The anxious partner, driven by the fear of rejection and abandonment, texts twice, then 3 times, because silence isn't just silence to them. It's a terrifying confirmation of not being enough. It's an absence that feels like a judgment. For them, "I miss you" isn't a plea for connection, it's an urgent attempt to reestablish safety. But to the avoidant partner who values their space and independence above all else, these two messages, or that heartfelt "I miss you," don't land as reassurance. Instead, they feel like handcuffs, an invasion, a suffocating demand. Your loving invitation to connect registers not as warmth, but as a violation to their autonomy. What's most devastating is that both individuals are desperately trying to survive, to protect their tender inner selves, but they're doing it with dramatic opposite survival tactics. leading them further apart instead of closer together. Let's zoom in on the internal world of the pursuer for a moment. So, the dominant thought might be, if I don't keep this conversation alive, if I don't consistently prove my worth or keep tabs, they're simply going to forget I exist. They're going to leave. I'll be alone and I won't be enough. It's a distinctive fear, a whisper that can quickly become a shout. Their overpowering feeling is a full body cortisol spike, a jolt of adrenaline that feels exactly like a tiger has just been let loose in their house, ready to pounce. Your heart races, your stomach clenches, and your mind spins trying to problem solve an existential threat. The inevitable action, this intense internal pressure, often manifests as triple texting even when there's no response. It's over explaining every nuance of your feelings, your intentions, your day, just to fill the void. And then perhaps suggesting therapy again, maybe even at 11 p.m., because something has to change and it has to change now. The fleeting payoff is a temporary, fragile wave of relief when finally the phone buzzes with a response. It's a moment of reprieve. The steep price is the devastating truth is that the partner now subconsciously associates your name appearing on their screen not as warmth, joy, or anticipation, but with an overwhelming sense of pressure, obligation, and emotional demand. Now let's shift perspectives and try to understand the distancer's experience. Their dominant thought is most likely, if I don't create a significant buffer zone, if I let them in too close, I'll completely disappear into the relationship. My identity, my sense of self, my freedom, it will all be consumed. This isn't about not caring about your partner or the relationship. It's about a deep, often subconscious fear of enmeshment. Their overpowering feeling consists of a profound chest tightness, as if someone has slowly but surely turned the oxygen down in the room. Their breathing might become shallow and their muscles tense. It's a visceral, physical response to a perceived emotional intrusion. The inevitable action is that this internal panic often leads to stonewalling, withdrawing into silence, or deflecting with humor and joking off serious conversations. It can also manifest as physically creating distance, like booking extra work trips, diving into hobbies, or spending more time alone, all designed to reclaim a vital sense of space and self. Their fleeting payoff is sweet, sweet solitude, a profound sense of relief as the pressure recedes, allowing them to finally breathe and feel like themselves again. It's a temporary return to a state of perceived safety and autonomy. Yet their steep price is that this withdrawal, however necessary it feels to the distancer, inevitably escalates the pursuer's anxiety. Their alarm bells ring even louder, triggering another round of desperate pursuit, which of course restarts the entire exhausting cycle all over again, reinforcing the distancer's belief that closeness is indeed a threat. Here's a critical point that many pursuers struggle to internalize. Most believe there's a magical, perfect amount of contact, a sweet spot of chasing that will feel safe, even inviting. To the avoidant partner, they think, if I just inch 1 millimeter closer, if I just send one more text instead of three, it'll work. The heartbreaking truth, however, is precisely the opposite. Research and the clients I have worked with consistently show that any chasing at all, regardless of its intensity, actually validates the avoidant's deepest, most primal fear, that their boundaries will be overrun and their autonomy will be compromised and they will be engulfed. Think of it like trying to give a cat a bath. But does that cat relax? Absolutely not. It scales the shower curtains, convinced that its very existence is under threat. Any forward movement from the pursuer, any perceived outreach, triggers an automatic, often unconscious, backward retreat from the distancer. It's not about how much you chase, it's that you're chasing at all. This isn't a game of hide and seek where the seeker eventually wins. It's a feedback loop that only intensifies the very dynamic you're trying to escape. This is perhaps the most crucial insight. The moment you label your partner cold, unfeeling, needy, or clingy, the cycle begins. The pursuer distancer dynamic thrives on blame because blame keeps you both staring angrily at each other, pointing fingers, instead of stepping back and observe the intricate, often invisible choreography you're both performing. Blame ensures you remain trapped in the loop. And in some cases, it can even be seen as loving attention, but it's a cycle that keeps both of you on edge and not truly connecting. So, time for some real talk. For the anxious partner, you're not inherently clingy. You are a person whose nervous system, shaped by early experiences, learned to use closeness and connection as a primary means to feel safe, worthy, and loved. Your pursuit reflects a sincere desire to meet that fundamental need, even if the approach sometimes works against you. And now, the avoidant partner. You're not heartless or uncaring. You are someone whose nervous system, also shaped by significant early experiences, learned to use distance and fierce independence as your primary shield to stay safe from perceived intrusion or loss of self. Your retreat is a protective mechanism, not a personal rejection. Both of these deeply ingrained strategies once served a vital purpose. They protected you in your younger years. Whether that was a chaotic family dinner, an emotional, unavailable household, or a challenging dorm room environment where emotional survival felt uncertain and unstable. These are brilliant adaptations to difficult circumstances. But here's the issue. Today, they're often outdated software running on adult hardware, attempting to navigate complex adult relationships. And instead of protecting you, they're crashing the entire system, preventing the very intimacy and connection you both secretly crave. Understanding this shifts the focus from communication, like who's wrong, to what's happening to us. If any of this has felt like someone has just described your last argument, or if it hits uncomfortably close to the heart of your relationship struggles, it might be time to talk to a therapist. You don't have to keep cycling through the same patterns. Reaching out for support can help you understand what's really happening underneath the surface, rebuild safety, and learn how to stay connected without losing yourself in the process. Stopping the chase isn't some manipulative tactic to get your partner to come running back. It's not about playing hard to get. It's fundamentally about your nervous system regulation. It's about taking back agency over your own emotional state. When that familiar, overwhelming urge to text a third, fifth, or 10th time, to demand an answer, to fix the perceived distance, that's your cue. Pause, take a deep breath, and then consciously name it. This is my alarm bell ringing, a familiar trigger, but it's not a 5 alarm fire. My partner isn't abandoning me. My nervous system is just feeling activated. Then, and this is the crucial part, choose one self soothing action that does not require your partner's physical presence, their attention, or their phone. These are actions that bring your nervous system back into balance. There are so many options that you can try. You can try the 4-7-8 breathing technique, where you inhale for 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8. Step outside for a 10-minute walk. Take 3 minutes to understand what emotions you're feeling by looking at the emotional wheel. Put your favorite song on and sing it loud. Or journal a voice note to yourself that you're never going to send. The goal is to regulate your own internal state instead of outsourcing your calm, your peace, or your sense of safety to your partner. You're doing something profound. You're changing the old, outdated software, and you're actively teaching your brain at a deep physiological level that you are capable of generating your own safety and security, even without consistent reassurance from your partner. This is what genuine empowerment looks like. Once your own pulse is at a manageable level, once you have found your internal equilibrium, then and only then can you communicate in a language that your partner can actually process and receive. This is the language of the low pressure invitation. Forget we need to talk right now. Instead, try something like, hey, this weekend, I really would love to set aside about 30 minutes to talk about our holiday plans together. Does Saturday morning or Sunday afternoon feel better for you? Notice the subtle, powerful shifts here. You're giving them crucial elements. First is time. You're not demanding an immediate on the spot discussion. You're offering a future moment. You're giving time to wrap their head around the conversation and to feel mentally prepared for it. Second, you're giving choice. You're providing options, allowing them to feel agency and control over their own schedule. Third are clear boundaries. You're specifying a time frame, 30 minutes, and a clear purpose, plan for the holidays, which helps reduce the fear of an open-ended, potentially overwhelming and exhausting emotional conversation. It's an invitation, not an ultimatum, a demand, or attack. And that makes all the difference. So the more you chase, the faster they run. But not because love is some brutal battlefield where only the strongest survive. It's because human nervous systems at their core are built for equilibrium, for a sense of safety and predictability. When you finally choose to stop the frantic chase and instead focus on grounding yourself, on regulating your own internal world, something remarkable happens. The music of the dance changes. Sometimes the avoidant partner, surprised by the sudden space where pressure once existed, will slowly turn back towards you. And sometimes you discover an even more profound truth, that you can stand perfectly still, rooted in your own being, and feel utterly safe and whole inside your own skin, regardless of anyone else's movement. Either way, you exit the frantic, exhausting push-pull spin. You step into something far more steadier, far more authentic. Two people consciously choosing each step, each moment of connection, rather than reacting out of fear. That, my friends, is the real win. No running shoes, no frantic sprints, no exhausting chases required. Just presence, choice, and a deeper understanding of yourself and each other. If you recognize yourself as the one always chasing for connection or the one always pulling away, you might also notice how that same push-pull shows up in other parts of your life, especially around pressure and performance. In my next video, we'll explore how perfectionism and procrastination often stem from the same emotional patterns and how to finally break free of them. Click on the next video and discover how to break free from perfectionism and procrastination so you can finally move forward with clarity, confidence, and calm.